Welcome dear children once again to the class of biology. And I'm very happy that you people are doing your assignments or completing your assignments and you are posting it on the WhatsApp group. Now there's one thing which I would like to tell you, that whenever you are asked to differentiate something, how do you write it, how do you present your answer in the notebook, is that you must divide your page into two and then write the differences. Right? The differences should not be written in the form of a paragraph. So you need to divide the page and then write the differences. So it's very nice of you that you are taking your studies seriously and you are completing your work. So back again to the class, and before we move ahead, we'll have a quick recap of what we've done in the previous classes. Right? So we started with biodiversity, that is the type, number of species found in a particular geographical area is biodiversity. Then we talked about nomenclature, right? Naming of living organisms is nomenclature. Then we discussed about binomial nomenclature, which is giving scientific name, and each scientific name having two components, the genus and the specific epithet. So that is binomial nomenclature. Then we discussed about the rules of binomial nomenclature, that is that these scientific names are written in italics. They are Latin, in the Latin language, and they are written in italics. Then each scientific name has two components, the genus and the specific epithet or the species. Then the first alphabet of the genus starts with a capital letter and the first alphabet of the specific epithet starts with a small letter. And whenever handwritten, both the components have to be underlined separately. So this is what we talked about, the binomial nomenclature. Then we studied a few examples also, and we also learned that every species has two names. Every species has two names. So one is the scientific name and the other is the common name, right? Then we moved on to classification, right? So grouping of organisms based on the similarity is classification. We talked about three types of classification. That is the natural, in which the external as well as the internal characteristics are taken into consideration for classification. Then we talked about artificial classification, in which only the external characteristics are taken into consideration, and phylogenetic classification, in which the evolutionary relationship of the organisms are taken into consideration. Right? Then we moved on to taxonomy, right? Naming and classifying the living organisms based on the similarities, and in that we discussed that the word taxonomy is taken from two Greek words, taxis meaning arrangement and nomia meaning method, right? So method of arranging the living organisms into specific categories. These categories are ranked, and so that leads to the formation of taxonomical hierarchy, right? And we talked about the 7 obligate categories, right? Starting from the unit of classification, which is the species, in which we discussed that organisms having 100% similarities in the fundamental features and the ones which are able to interbreed are grouped under one species, right? Related species, they form the genus. Then like that we move on right up till the kingdom, right? So this is what we discussed in the previous class. And now like when we talk about taxonomy and grouping or classification, classifying the living organisms, it is slightly difficult to very easily classify the living organisms, put them into specific categories, right? So grouping them or classifying them into specific categories requires a lot of field work, a lot of research work, a lot of laboratory work is required for this, right? So that it becomes easy, the organism and the characteristics are identified well, and then they can be grouped into a particular category or a particular taxon, right? What are the various taxons that we studied? Species, genus, family, order, class, phylum and kingdom. These were the 7 taxons that we talked about yesterday. So to make it easy, we have certain taxonomical aids, right, which makes it easy for the scientists to study the features and know all about the organism, so that it can be classified or put into a particular category. So taxonomical aids are just a collection of samples or preserved specimens, right? Collection of samples, or they are preserved specimens that are taken, and again here, with the help of these samples and preserved specimens, the characteristics are studied, right? So we will talk about the taxonomical aids today. Taxonomical aids. Now what are these taxonomical aids, right? Now these taxonomical aids can be divided into 2 major categories, and these 2 major categories are aids having specimens, aids having specimens, and aids without specimens, right? Aids having specimen and aids without specimen. Now aids having specimen are again classified into 2 major groups: dead specimens and living specimens. Right? So specimens which are dead are categorized into one, and specimens which are living are categorized into one kind of aids. Right? So again, there are 2 types of dead specimens or taxonomical aids having dead specimens. So these 2 types are herbarium and museum. I'm sure you must have heard the names. And the living specimens are again categorized into 2: zoological parks or zoos and botanical gardens. Right? So our city itself has a very known botanical garden, that is NBRI. Then comes the aids without specimens. In the aids without specimens, we will study about the flora. Then the next is the manual, monograph, catalog, and keys. Right, so today we will be discussing and learning in detail about all these taxonomical aids. Right, so what are these taxonomical aids? These contain either the specimens or some data regarding the specimens. Right, so those aids which contain the specimens, they are divided into aids containing dead specimens, that is herbarium or the museum. The specimens are there in both. And aids containing living specimens, that is the zoological parks, that is the zoo, and the botanical garden where plants are grown. Right? Then we have aids without the specimen. Now these aids which are without the specimen, what kind of an aid is that? They contain all the information regarding the living organisms in different ways, in different forms. Right? So these are aids without the specimen. And now we will go into the detail of each type of aid. So the first aid that we will learn about today is Right, so the first aid that we will learn about today is that we will talk about aids with specimen, dead specimen. Right, so the first one is the herbarium. Right, herbarium is the singular term and the plural of herbarium is herbaria. Right, so herbarium is the first taxonomical aid that we will discuss. Now, right now, what kind of an aid is this? It is simply a collection, now listen very carefully, a collection of preserved plants, right, the specimens, and it also contains data related to that, right, and this data is used for scientific study, right. So what is it? It is a collection of preserved plants. The first thing, it is a collection of preserved plants, right? And what else along with the plant? Associated data. Right? I tell you what associated data is. What is it used for? Scientific study. Right. So, collection of preserved plants. Plant samples, specimens of plants are taken. What kind of specimens of plants are taken? Either the whole plant part is taken if it is not that too big. Either the whole plant part is taken, or maybe a part of the plant is taken as a specimen, right? And then these parts or the whole plant, whatever specimen is taken, it is preserved, right? So that is collection of preserved plants and associated data, right? What is this associated data? All knowledge about the plant, from where it has been collected, who has collected, what is the habitat in which that particular part of the plant is found. So all these details, right, are written on the herbarium sheet where the plant parts are mounted. So that is what is an herbarium, and then this is used for scientific purpose, for scientific studies. Now let's go into the detail of how this herbarium is prepared. Now the specimens, as I told you, may be whole parts of the plant or maybe a part of a particular plant, and these are usually dried first, right? So drying is important because we need to remove the moisture, otherwise these moisture would be an invitation to the fungus, right, and that would lead to fungal infection, and then of course the plant part may get desiccated. So to avoid that, the parts of the plant are first dried, right? So whatever specimen is there, that has to be dried, and after it is dried, then only it is mounted on a sheet of paper, right? So this the sheet on which it is mounted, there is a scientific term that is used for that, which is called exicate. Exicate, right? So that is the scientific term that is used for the sheets on which the specimen is mounted, right? Exicate, I'll just write it, exicate. Exicate. So this is the scientific term that is used, right? So then what happens? How are these plant specimens dried, right? There's a specific way of drying, and after it is dried, then these plant parts are preserved. Preservation, of course, is by spraying some chemical on that, so that there is no kind of any infection on the plant, right? And then they're kept in some boxes, glass boxes, so that insects and all do not come and spoil it or eat the plant parts, right? So herbarium sheets are found, right? When you go to the market, you'll find those herbarium sheets, right? They're just like the punch papers that you use to make your science files, physics, chemistry and biology. You make files, practical files in the previous classes. So those punch papers, something like that only, right? But they are not those punch sheets are not there. So herbarium file has the word herbarium printed on it, and whatever data has to be written, so that also is there on a sheet of paper. It would be something like this, the sheet of paper, and then there will be those punches here, and here at the bottom the details of whatever specimen is mounted. The detail of that specimen is written on the herbarium sheet, right? So how is it done in the laboratories, right? How the parts of the plants are preserved is that the part of the plant, for example, if I take this leaf as an example, now this leaf is the part of the plant that has to be preserved for the herbarium, right? So now what is done? There are two thin sheets of paper that is taken, and in between the sheets they are known as flimsies, right? Those sheets, I'll write the word here, those sheets are known as flimsies, right? So in between these sheets of the flimsies, for example, if I take these two sheets to be the flimsies, I will keep the part of the specimen here in between like this, and it is pressed, right? Now this sheet would be a kind of an absorbent sheet, right? So it would absorb all the moisture that is there in the leaf. I'm taking this leaf as a specimen, so that absorbs the moisture of the leaf, right? So once the moisture is absorbed, then these leaves are we can say now the leaf is dried, and then these leaves are kept in plant press. Now what is this plant press? Usually at home, how do we press the plant? We need to flatten that part, right? So that easily it can be mounted on the sheet. Mounted means it can be fixed on the sheet, right? So we have to flatten this part. So in the laboratories they use plant press, which you can see in the image just now, right? These plant press, they're like boxes kind of things, and in between they are pressed like that, right? So that the plant part becomes flattened. So that is how it is pressed, and once that is done, right, then it is mounted on the sheet, and of course some spray, some chemical is sprayed for it to be preserved, and once that is done, all the details regarding the plant is written over here. Now what are the details that have to be written? The name of the collector, the person who's collected it, right? The date on which it is collected, the place from where it is collected, right? And at what altitude was this, plant, the habitat, etc. All that is mentioned over here, right? Now in the medicals, there's a question asked that which characteristic feature is not present in the data associated with the herbarium, right? Which characteristic feature is not present in the data associated with herbarium? So we do not mention the height of the plants, right, in the herbarium. This is one characteristic feature which is not mentioned in the herbarium, right? So again here, as I told you, now once the sheet is prepared, the leaf is mounted, all the details are there. Now this can be, kept or preserved in some boxes, right? Glass boxes. Why in the glass boxes? So that insects don't destroy the specimens that have been preserved, right? So that's about the herbarium, right? Since all the details are given over here, so it becomes easy for the scientist to study the particular plant in detail, and with the help of this, the scientist will be able to classify it or categorize it into a particular taxonomical category, right? So that's about the herbarium, right? The next dead specimen taxonomical aid that we will talk about, the second one, again belonging to the dead category, is the museum. I'm sure you must have been to museums and seen organisms, or historical museums. When you visit various historical places, you'll find that there are museums. You'll see what kind of weapons the kings or the people in those period used, right? So museum. Museum is the second taxonomical aid consisting of dead specimen that we will talk about. Now the word museum is derived from a ancient Greek word which is mosion, right? Mosion. I just spell it here, M-O-U-S-I-O-N. Mosion, right? So it is spelled as, it is pronounced as mosion. Now what is this mosion? Mosion was a temple in the ancient Greek, and this temple, it was for the Greek goddess of art and science. So it was a temple of muses over there, and this temple was mainly of the goddess of art and science. So from there this word museum has come, right? So what is a museum? Again here it consists of different articles, but since we're talking about biology, so it consists of dead specimens of various plants, and generally the animals are kept over here in the museum, right? So this museum is meant again for research work, and it is for public view also. Tourists come and they see the museums and all. So it is for that purpose also, and it is also for the educational purpose, right? So that is the museum, and these materials which are available in the museum, like whatever materials or whatever specimens you see in the museum, these specimens are called collection, right? A simple term, collection. So whatever articles on the whole or in every type of museum, whether it is the scientific museum or the historical museum, all the articles that are found or the specimens that are found in the museum are called collection, right? So museum is meant basically for promoting scientific research work, and it is the center for research and education. Now what are the things that like how does a museum work? What happens? How is it that the specimens and all are collected? What happens? What is the order in which the work to run a museum is done, right? So the first thing that is done in the museum is the collection of the specimen, right? Or we can say acquisition of the sample, right? So the first step is the acquisition of the sample, right? What is acquisition of the sample? To get the sample from somewhere. Once the sample is there in the museum, the second thing that happens is that a record of the sample is maintained, right? So what is a record? There is a book, or nowadays of course it is a computer, where a list of all the specimens is kept, right? A record is kept over there, and so whatever new sample is added, new specimen is added, so added to the museum, again it is added there in the list that they have. So a record is maintained. The third step is, first is the sample has come, it is written down in the record. Now what is the next step? Is preservation. Preservation of the sample, right? So basically why are the samples preserved? Is to avoid deterioration, right? Now how are these samples preserved? See, what happens is these samples are put in certain chemicals, right? So that is how they are preserved, and these chemicals, the chemical that is used, the liquid chemical that is generally used to preserve these specimens is formalin or formaldehyde, right? So that is formalin or also formaldehyde. It is also known as formaldehyde, right? So that is how it is preserved, and these specimens, these organisms are taken, and all the internal parts of the organism is scooped out, it is taken out so that it does not get deteriorated, it will smell otherwise, and then it is stuffed with some material, right? So that the organism does not look flattened, right? So it is stuffed with certain materials inside, and then they are preserved. Even skeletons of the organisms are there in the museum, right? So one way is the skeleton. Big organisms are also, you know, the internal organs and all are taken out and they are stuffed with some certain things. And otherwise, like even in the school laboratories, once you come back to the school, I'll take you to the laboratory, you will see that there are specimens that are preserved in jars, right? And so you will see something like this, and a specimen, let's say a fish, is there in the jar, right? And it is all dipped in a liquid, and this liquid is formalin or formaldehyde, right? So whatever specimen is there, all these the information regarding the specimen is always given over there, right? So what information? Again, the name of the organism and certain other details regarding the scientific name of the organism and the common name of the organism is always there where the specimen is, right? On the specimen, on the jar, or if the specimen is not kept in the jar, then a labeling would be there below the specimen. So that's about the specimen. But if we talk about birds, you know, the wings of the birds are very, very delicate and they cannot be preserved. The wings cannot be preserved in this liquid formalin. So to preserve those, the bird, there is a dry chemical that is used to preserve the birds, right? So whatever way they are preserved is the third step is preserving, right? And once they are preserved well, then they are ready for exhibition and of course for educational studies and for research work. So that's about the second taxonomical age, taking into account dead specimens, right? So we said when we were talking about the taxonomical age with specimens, we talked about dead taxonomical age with specimens, in that herbarium, and the second one was museum. So we've completed this, and now we move to the taxonomical age having living specimens, right? So the third one we will discuss, the third taxonomical age is zoological park. Zoological park, right? Or zoo, right? Everybody has been to the zoo, and I'm sure you must have been to visited the Lucknow Zoo, right? And what do you find in the zoo? Again, here when we are using this word zoological, it simply means a term that is related to animals, right? So animals are kept over here. What kind of animals? They are all living animals, right? You've been to the zoo, you must have found all the animals in the zoo are living animals, and wild animals basically are kept in the zoo, right? So zoo is an enclosed place, an enclosed, you must have seen all the organisms that are there in the zoo are caged, right? So what is a zoo? It is an enclosed place where live wild animals are kept, right? They are kept for public exhibition, they are kept for scientific research, they are kept for educational purpose also, right? And it is also seen that these organisms, they are kept, of course they are not in the natural habitat, but it is tried to provide a kind of a natural habitat to these organisms, right? So that they feel at home, right? They are actually not in the real habitat, the real natural habitat, but it is tried to provide a kind of a natural habitat to these organisms, right? So basically zoo is for the scientific purpose also. A lot of research and studies is done over there. The breeding habits are noted, what kind of food these organisms eat, that is studied about. All these are things that are, you know, researched and worked about over there in the zoo. And basically why are they kept in the zoo is of course for the scientific purpose, to study, to know more about the animals. And then these are certain animals which may be facing a kind of a threat in their natural habitat, right? And so breeding of these organisms would be difficult, right? So to avoid that, these animals are brought to the zoo also, so that breeding, normal breeding can take place. And also what happens is, now because there's so much of development that is taking place, so much of construction that is taking place, that the natural habitats are destroyed, right? So once it is destroyed, they have no home to live, and so they come in the areas where the people are living. Maybe the people also can kill them, So again, then they are brought to these zoological parks and they are kept safe over there, and everything that they required is provided to them, right? So what is the role of the zoo? That is, the role of the zoo is to study the live animal types, right? You must have been to the zoo, and when must have been to the Lucknow Zoo, and there you must have seen the various animals, you must have seen lions, tigers, there's a specific area for monkeys, for birds, and you must have seen snakes also. And when you go over there, you find that there's a kind of a stand on which, or maybe on the wall also, where the name of the animal is there, the scientific name of the animal is there, and a lot of details about the animal, the kind of habitat, natural habitat that they are found in, the kind of food that they like to eat, everything, all details are mentioned over there, right? So that is how a zoo is maintained. Again, the zoo is always staffed. There are staffs there, the people there who are appointed, who look after these organisms, right? Again, they are of course a source of tourist attraction, right? Whenever we go to the zoo, we don't go from that educational point of view, we go there to enjoy and see all these animals, right? So it is a source of tourist attraction, and again a kind of conservation in captivity for breeding is done over there, right? So it is a conservation through captive breeding of endangered animals, right? So that's about the zoo or the zoological park. Then the next one, the fourth aid having living specimen is the botanical garden, right? Botanical garden in Lucknow, NVRI is one botanical garden. Again, botanical is a term related to botany. Okay, one more thing I forgot about the zoo is that to maintain a natural habitat, plants are also there, right? So the zoo does not have only the animals over there, but there are plants and trees also that are grown there. But basically the breeding for the animals only is done in the zoo. So next we come to the botanical garden. Again, botany, term related to plants, right? So botanical garden, it is a garden basically which is dedicated to collection, right? So what do we see over here? Collection, right? So a garden dedicated to collection. Collection means collecting or bringing the plant varieties to this botanical garden. So collection, second is cultivation. They are not only brought, then they are cultivated. Then preservation, they are preserved, right? So of course it is seen over there what is required for them, what kind of an environment needs to be provided to them so that they can live on, right? So preservation and then display, right? And then display, right? So display of the plant is also there in the botanical gardens. You must have been to the gardens or on certain exhibitions where you see a variety of flowers, right? So the first step is collection. They are collected and then they are cultivated, then they are preserved, right, for the display to the people, right? And there are range of plants that are kept in the botanical garden, and again here every species of the plant will have a label, right? That label would tell the name of the plant, the common name of the plant, and the scientific name of the plant as well, right? So all that is seen in the botanical garden. Apart from just the plants in the botanical garden, you will also come across greenhouses in the botanical garden, right? Greenhouses to maintain a particular temperature. There are certain types of plants that are kept only inside the greenhouse. Then there are shade houses. Shade houses, maybe there are certain plants that require a lower temperature, so then not too much of heat, so then they are kept in those shade houses, right? So that is how these plants are preserved, the habitat is known, and that natural condition is tried to provide to these plants also, so that they can be cultivated and preserved for long, right? So they are often these botanical gardens, they are often run by universities or they are also run by certain scientific research centers, right? So these are the two organizations which run a botanical garden, and these botanical gardens may also have an associated herbaria in their vicinity, in their own compound, right? So they may have may not always, but may have an associated herbaria also, and a lot of research program goes on over there related to plant taxonomy. You find scientists over there who will keep on, studying about these plants, right? So a lot of research work is done. That is how we know so much about plants and animals, because of these scientists who keep on working and studying and finding out new things about plants and animals, right? So what is the role of a botanical garden? Again here, to maintain documented specimens, right? Documented specimen means all characteristics, name, data associated to that particular plant is maintained, right? So the data has to be there, right? And what use is that data? It is used for scientific research purpose, right? For display of force and also for educational purposes, the data and the plants are used, right? And again here, these botanical gardens, they are again staffed. Staff means there are people who look after the botanical garden, right? And for their maintenance, etc., so that the plants, they don't get destroyed. So a lot of maintenance is required for these botanical gardens. I visited NBRI, in which I saw there was a section for vermicomposting. I had gone over there because I wanted to learn something about vermicomposting, and we have a vermicomposting unit in our school also. So I went over there. So what I found was, apart from preservation of these plants, etc., collection and breeding of these plants, there was this vermicompost unit. So the people over there, the scientist who was looking after that particular unit, took me over there to the vermicompost unit, and I saw a lot of red worms over there and how the compost was being formed, and that compost was used for the plants. And then they told me how this particular work is done, right? So that is again one thing that I saw related to the botanical garden, right? So that's about the specimens, taxonomical aids using specimens, right? And now we come to the taxonomical aids which do not use specimens, right? So aids without the specimens. Aids without the specimens. So again here, the aids without the specimens, the first aid that we will talk about is the flora, right? So the first aid without the specimen is flora. I told you the taxonomical aids without specimen, they contain the data about various living organisms. So here this is the flora, right? So what is this flora? Flora is a particular document, right, of all the plant species in a given geographical area. See, I'm showing this to be a given geographical area, right? A document of all the plant species, right? Document of what? Suppose there are 10 plant species that are found in this geographical area, right? So it is a document, tells everything about those 10 plant species, right? So that is what is a flora, and this does not only contain the document of the different plant species found in a particular geographical area, it will also tell about the presence of any rare species over there, if there is a rare species, and it will also inform about the endemic species. What are endemic species? Endemic species are those that are found in a particular geographical area. They are found only in that area. They cannot be grown or found in any other area, right? So it also gives us information about the rare species and the endemic species, right? The next taxonomical aid that we will do is manual. Right, so the next taxonomical aid is manual. What is manual? See, what happens is a lot of information, as I told you, is required for studying, or for the research work, or to categorize a particular group of animals into one particular taxon, right? So the information about all these things is contained in the manual. So it is a kind of a guide for the individuals to accurately identify and classify the organism into a particular group or a category or a taxon, right? So it may not only contain the details regarding a plant, it may also contain the details regarding a particular animal species also, right? So what we talked about in flora was basically only for the plant, right? So it was a document for plants of a particular geographical area. Manual contains those identifying features, right, of plants as well as animals, right? So it is a kind of guide where the scientist can go through that guide, and according to that he will be able to classify the basic but important characteristics are mentioned in the manual, right? So it contains basic but necessary information about a particular plant or an animal, with the help of which that plant or animal can be categorized or can be grouped into a particular taxon, right? So that's about the manual. We come to the next taxonomical aid after manual is monograph, right? Monograph is the next taxonomical aid. It is a complete global account. Understand? Complete global, all over the world, right? Global account of a particular taxon, right? Of a particular, now let's take this example of a particular taxon. We've studied various taxons as species, right? Maybe phylum, right? If we take phylum as one taxon, it contains the global in all over the world, whatever, of course for plants and animals it would be different, right? So whatever animals are there present in this particular phylum all over the world, it contains the information for that particular phylum, right? So for every obligate category, for every taxon, there is a manual which contains all the information regarding the plants or the animals globally present in that. So this basically tells, monograph basically tells about a particular taxon, right? So what is the difference between a manual and a monograph is, manual provides basic but necessary information for identifying the names and then classifying the organisms into groups, right? Monograph tells everything about that group, right? So that's about the monograph, and we come to the next taxonomical aid without the specimen. The next one is a catalog, right? Catalog I don't think is a very difficult term to understand, right? So what is a catalog? Is simply listing of all species, right, organized in an organized way, right? Now basically how they are listed is alphabetical, right? So it is, what is it? Listing of all species. How are they listed? Alphabetically. Like how we have the names in the attendance register in alphabetical orders. So this is how even in the catalog the organisms are listed alphabetically, and very little photographic details would be found, not right? So basically it is listing of the names of the organisms in an alphabetical order with very little photographic details. What do I mean by this? Very little photographic details. Very few photographs in the whole catalog we'll be able to find, right? So very less photographical details. So that is simply what is a catalog. And now we come to the last taxonomical aid, which is known as key. So key is the last taxonomical aid that we will come across, and this taxonomical aid is basically a kind of an analytical tool, right? Analytical tool, right? So analysis, analytical means analysis, right? So what does this tool contain? It is a tool using logical reasoning, right? Analytical tool means a tool containing logical reasoning, right? So logical reasoning is done over here, and in this what happens is, if we want to know something about a particular organism, there is a set of characteristics that are presented, right? If the characteristic is presented in a contrasting pair kind, it is known as a couplet, right? And every sentence, right, in a particular key is known as a lead. Every sentence is known as a lead, and the contrasting pair of characteristics is known as a couplet, right? So this is based basically on the similarities and dissimilarities. So whatever characteristic is mentioned over there, if that characteristic is present in the organism that the scientist is studying, then that characteristic is picked up and the other characteristic is rejected. So this is how the scientist comes to know about that particular organism and to which taxonomical category the organism belongs to, right? So this is how the organism is recognized, to which category it belongs to, and the keys are different for different taxonomical categories. That means the set of keys for species is different, the set of keys for genus is different, the set of keys for phylum is different, for class is different. So every taxonomical category has a different set of keys, right? Now for example, now if we take the example of amphibians, right? And then the scientist or the person who is studying about the organism wants to know to which category, taxonomic category, or to will this particular organism belong to. Let's take the example of lion and frog, right? So now the set of characteristic presented, number one, the presence of notochord is there. So the notochord is present in the lion also, and the notochord is present in the frog also, right? The next characteristic that is written over here is the presence of moist skin, right? So lion does not have a moist skin, whereas frog has a moist skin. That means frog belongs to the category amphibians, right? So this is how the key works, and we come to know about the category to which that particular organism belongs, right? So that's the end of today's lesson. And a quick recap again, we talked about the taxonomical aids, aids having specimens and aids without specimens. In the aids having specimens, we divided into dead specimens and living specimens. Under dead specimens, we talked about herbarium, in which the plant specimens are kept, right? There's a There's a particular way of drying, right, and then pressing the sample and then mounting it on a herbarium sheet with all the details of the plants, right, and the name of the collector, right. Then we talked about museum, where the animals basically are kept, right. So all the parts present inside the animal is taken out and it is stuffed with something, and then they are sprayed with certain chemicals, or they are kept in formalin. So that is how they are preserved. Then we talked about the living specimens, zoological parks where animals, live wild animals are kept, right. All the details related to those wild animals are mentioned outside the cage where they are kept, and breeding is done over there. And we also get to know about the food habits, right, the kind of habitat that they are, they are found to live in, right. Then we talked about the botanical gardens, right, where collection of the plants are there, and then these plants are, they are preserved also, right, breeding is also done, and then a herbarium associated to that particular botanical garden may also be present, right, and again the scientific name, etc., of those species of plants are also mentioned over there. Then we talked about the specimens, the taxonomical aids without the specimens, in which we talked about flora. Flora is all related to plants, right. Then we talked about manuals, monographs, and catalog and keys, right. So again, at the end of this, you will find an attachment, an assignment attached to this class. Kindly go through the questions as you've been answering the previous assignments. Answer these assignments and send it to me on WhatsApp so that I can see that you answered it correctly or not. And please keep reading the lesson so that you learn whatever has been taught to you in every class, right. Don't just leave it like that. Always read the part of the lesson that is taught. So all the best and thank you.